Good morning and welcome to everybody at this difficult time for Ukraine. Let me initially just say that the EPP group and its chairman have been closely following the developments in Ukraine, and the chairman of the group and the president of the EPP has issued a statement overnight calling on President Yanukovych to stop killing his own people. We have a top representation here today with 3 MEPs who have visited Kiev twice over the past months and who have just concluded an extensive debate on the subject at the EPP group meeting. I will first of all, however, give the floor to Ruslana Lizichko, who is a famous Ukrainian singer and devoted Euromaidan activist, to debrief us on the situation. And afterwards, there will be Mr. Elmar Brok, who is the chairman of the Foreign Affairs Committee, then Jose Ignacio Salafranca, who is EPP Group's coordinator on foreign affairs, and shortly we will be joined also by Mr. Jacek Saryusz-Wolski, who is a vice chairman of the Parliament delegation to the Euronest Parliamentary Assembly. Ruslana, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Can you hear me? Thank you very much for your attention, for your time. I'm going to Maidan after this press conference. I'll be there in a few hours, and I'm going to Maidan directly from airport Borispol. Now I spoke with Vitaly Klitschko, with Petro Poroshenko. Yesterday I met Stefan Füle. Also we. All the time I was with Saryusz-Wolski, I think all the night. Sorry. Я можу користуватись перекладом. Okay.
I can use the translation now. So.
Зараз я вам надам найбільш важливу інформацію.
I will give you the most important information in a second.
Кількість загиблих 25 чоловік.
The number of deaths is 25.
1000 людей постраждалих.
1,000 people have suffered.
Всі лікарні переповнені
All
в Києві.
hospitals are overwhelmed in Kiev.
Ми просимо негайно надсилати міжнародних
We
експертів.
ask you urgently to send the international experts
Підтвердити, що люди постраждали від вогнепальної зброї
to
Беркуту.
prove that people have suffered because of the gunshots.
Це не конфлікт.
This is not a conflict
Це не
anymore.
революція.
This is not a revolution.
Це не громадянська війна.
This is not a civic war.
Це війна Януковича проти власного народу.
This is a war of Yanukovych against his own people.
Про що мене просив Кличко?
This is what Klitschko has asked me to pass the
Всю
message.
ніч.
All night.
Надавити на Януковича всіма
To
методами
press
з Європи.
on Yanukovych with all measures possible from the European side.
Негайно ввести персональні санкції.
Urgently to introduce the personal sanctions.
Зупинити протистояння будь-якими методами, будь-якими розмовами, поїздками.
To stop the struggle with any methods, with any means.
Атаки Беркута зупинити.
And to stop Berkut.
Провокація була Беркутом здійснена
The provocation was done by Berkut during the night.
Беркут висадився на будинок профспілок і підпалив його.
The Berkut has climbed on top of the профспілки, the trade unions building and just started burning it.
Кличко просив мене наголосити на тому, що всі рішення Янукович приймає особисто сам в кабінеті.
Klitschko has asked me to pass a message that Yanukovych is doing his own decision making, so all the decisions have been done only by him.
І вся відповідальність лише на
And
ньому,
all
на Януковичі.
responsibility lies on the president.
Методи зачистки сьогодні Майдану жахливі.
The methods of cleaning up what they call Maidan are just terrible.
Янукович відключив метро.
Yanukovych has stopped running the metro,
заблокував дороги.
blocked all the roads.
Інформаційна блокада, виключають телебачення і радіо.
The information blockade, they have switched off the radio and TV.
Янукович цілою серією підключив всі силові структури і військових і практично вже вводить надзвичайний стан по факту.
Yanukovych has introduced all the measures and all the means to introduce the emergency state in the country.
І силові структури підключив,
And the military structures as
і
well.
військових в тому
And the
числі.
troops.
Це всі спецрозділи.
This is all the special forces SBU of the country.
І по факту вже вводить надзвичайний стан.
And by de facto is introducing the state of emergency.
Це є терор на вулицях Києва.
This is a terror on the streets of Kiev, the capital.
Людей хапають тітушки.
The people are being taken by titushki.
Тепер, що мене просили обов'язково сказати
This
сьогодні
is
на
what I was
прес-конференції.
also asked to pass as an important message.
Влада є найбільшим порушником закону. Сам Янукович є зараз найбільшим
The
порушником закону.
authorities is the most important part of violating the law at this moment. Yanukovych is the one to be blamed for it.
Тому що він застосовує кримінал.
Because he's using the criminal means.
Влада, яка порушує закон від 2010 року, не має права вимагати, виконувати, людей бути законослухняними, тому що влада сама порушила цей
The
закон.
authorities that have been violating all the rules since 2010 have no right to ask the people to perform according to the law.
На вулицях Києва працюють професійно підготовлені
On the streets of Kiev,
провокатори,
the
яких
professional provocators,
впроваджують, спеціальні люди, яких впроваджують під одягом майданівців в групи мітингувальників.
the special provocators are working on the streets of Kiev who are dressed as civilians, as Maidan people, so to say, and they are acting against them, basically.
І, будь ласка, напишіть, що це діють методи Януковича,
And
кримінальні методи
please write
Януковича.
that these are the clear methods of the president and actions.
Це війна
This is a war.
Януковича проти людей.
This is the war of Yanukovych against the people.
Я хочу додати, що все те, що відбувається зараз, мене вже особисто не дивує.
I actually would like to add that whatever is happening right now, I am not surprised of.
Не бійтеся вводити санкції.
Don't be afraid to introduce the sanctions.
Він і так по факту диктатор.
He is by de facto a dictator.
Він несе кров нам.
He is carrying blood to us.
Він використовує всю зараз систему,
He's using the whole system,
всіх військових,
all the troops,
всі сили,
all the forces
щоб вбити людей.
to kill the people.
Ми знаємо, що наказ вчора Беркут отримав вбивати всіх, кого побачить.
We
На
know
Майдані.
that the order that was ordered yesterday was to kill just everybody who is on Maidan.
Ілюзій немає.
There are no illusions anymore.
Я не хочу сьогодні апелювати чи коментувати заяви Росії,
I don't want to comment or appeal about the Russian appeals and statements.
але я думаю, що настане час, коли я дуже відверто почну це коментувати.
But I think there will be time when I will start doing this and comment on this.
На мою думку, готується атмосфера, ґрунт холодної війни.
I think the atmosphere that's in the air is the ground for the Cold War,
І в яку будуть втягнуті всі.
which will be engaged by all
І
parties.
це провокація найвищого рівня.
This is the provocation of the highest standard.
І на цьому я обмежусь сьогодні в
And
своїх коментарях
I will stop my message
щодо
at this point.
Політики Росії.
As far as the politics of Russia is concerned.
Я дозволю собі зараз закінчити дуже гостро.
I will allow myself to finish my speech in a very critical manner.
Є провокатори, є кримінал,
There are provocators, there are criminals,
є агресія від Януковича,
there is aggression from Yanukovych's side,
але ми закликаємо до мирного протесту.
but we are still asking for a peaceful protest.
Всі лідери опозиції,
All leaders of the opposition,
всі лідери Майдану,
all the leaders of Maidan,
всі люди на Майдані
all
хочуть
people who are
мирно.
there, they want a peaceful,
Всі хочуть повернутися живими
they
додому.
want to come home alive.
Не слухайте, що українці провокатори,
Don't listen to the message that Ukrainians are
що ми
provocators.
радикали чи
That we are
націоналісти.
radicals or nationalists.
Ми не фашисти.
We are not fascists.
Ми патріоти.
We are patriots.
Ми хочемо зберегти свою країну.
We want to save our country
Зберегти свою незалежність.
and to save our independence.
Якщо Європа не введе санкції,
If Europe will not introduce sanctions,
я почну голодування.
I will start starvation. I
Дякую.
will start to starve.
Thank you, Ruslana. Mr. Elmar Brok, please.
Thank you very much, Ruslana, for this introduction. I can report from our group meeting we had just, and we have made an unanimous decision that personalized sanctions against certain responsible persons must set up now. We have said in our resolution, the European Parliament and all those houses have said, in the case of the continuation of violence, we have to prepare for such a moment on sanctions. But now I think the moment is there to do that and become practical. It's our clear opinion that this is not anymore the time of press releases. And the people in Ukraine will not be satisfied if we leave it with press releases. We do not call for sanctions against Ukraine. We call for sanctions against certain personal responsible people. And we call on the Council and the Member States to prepare such a list. Hopefully this list is prepared. At least we can provide such a list if it's needed. And it made clear that the sanction has to consist out of two things. First of all, a travel ban. The second, perhaps more interesting part is that we will have a situation that we should look into bank accounts. If I see that Mr. Azarov went to Vienna to look after he was not anymore Prime Minister, to look into his assets, and we know that other of these oligarchs and governmental people have their places in Germany, in the Netherlands, in Britain, I think then this would be a quite interesting thing. And I think we should use the money laundering directive of the European Union that banks should look into certain bank accounts whether there is clean money or not. I think that it's important to do that, and that can be a relatively small list because we want to have the right aim, goal to achieve that. What we have to do now first is that we have to look in a situation how we can stop the violence in these days. What I hear from, and Ruslana explained it, I hear this morning also from Kiev, is that all the motorways, the metros, everything is closed by the police. But people are marching by feet, kilometer for kilometer, back to the Maidan. We have heard that the Yanukovych football hooligans from the east are in buses with weapons in order to have another confrontation and provocation. We have heard that General Lebedev has ordered 500 paratroopers fully armed from the east to Kiev. That is the present situation. And this came to a surprise of us because I am personally believed after the agreement went well on the amnesty law over the weekend from both sides, to a surprise, but I think the situation in the Rada were the main reasons for that. It looked so yesterday morning that there was a majority in the Rada for starting a constitutional process on the basis of the 2004 constitution, which is the important question for a peaceful solution, have a new balance of power between Prime Minister and President, and especially gives the clear possibilities for parliamentary elections. And also there's preparations going on for a fair electoral law. And I think in this moment, Yanukovych was clear for himself that he does not carry anymore a majority somewhere, and that uses this military law. This is martial law without declaring martial law. In order to keep money, money was the right word, keep the power, to keep the money for the family and his son and other his followers. And We have to try still to find a solution. What I said does not mean that there should be not any more diplomatic missions, and we're always ready to go there. I believe also that the European Union has to go there and also explain both the possibilities of freedom, both again the possibilities of financial economic support for Ukraine, which is prepared, and not under blackmailing like from Russia, with energy prices and the conditions for their credits, and but also explaining what the sanctions could mean, and find a solution between the opposition and the government. But I must say, you cannot give nothing to the opposition for 3 months and expecting that the people are satisfied with that. And therefore he has to move if he wants to keep the unity of his country. The unity of his country is important. All these proposals coming from Moscow of federalism in Ukraine are proposals to split up the country, and that should not be our aim. Our aim is that the future of the Ukraine should be decided alone by Ukraine. The future of Ukraine is not in Moscow, not in Brussels, it's in Kiev. The citizens of Ukraine must have the right to decide where the country wants to go. That's the right democratic way, and it's under international law. And the Russian interference with customs means, with trade barriers, with playing around with his credit and general energy prices, and using other means, is an interference which is not acceptable. This new speech you hear, that the opposition is responsible for violence, this new speech that the European Union does interfere, are both wrong. We do not interfere, we make offers. The Ukrainians can decide, and not pressure. If the Ukrainians decide to go not in the direction of the European Union, it's Ukrainian decision, only their decision. But we want to have the right for the Ukrainian citizens to do that. And therefore I must say that also in this situation, Mr. Putin plays an important role, and we call for his responsibility. He is partly responsible for the violence in Ukraine. Exactly. And therefore he should use now, under the situation of the Olympics, do it better. The Olympics had one idea that was always originally to have peace between the participants, countries, cities at that time. And now I think he should, as the host of the Olympics, in a responsibility to do that internationally and also in this relationship to Ukraine, to put this pressure away. I think Russia has an importance here, and it has a responsibility here, and I think that should be also made clear to the international public that they have to do it. We do not want to negotiate with Russia about the fate of Ukraine, because the fate of Ukraine is only the right of Ukraine, and not Europe and Russia can negotiate about that. But we can make sure that an association agreement and free trade area has nothing to do with negative aspects on Russia. We all want to have a good relationship to Russia and also good trade relations to Russia, both the European Union as well as Ukraine. And therefore all these arguments is used are wrong. I say it again, it is part of the propaganda and the new speech that they have learned in earlier times to do it that way. And I believe, therefore, that this is now the moment where we have to make clear that in the 21st century, something like a Budapest or East Berlin or Prague should be not anymore possible, with other means for sure, but not any more possible. And it must be clear, but next to me sits Jacek Saryusz-Wolski. If that really goes forward with a martial law, we know that freedom will win. That was so with Solidarność, and a few later, freedom and democracy was in Poland. And I think what Yanukovych does, and perhaps with the support of Putin does, will not destroy the future of Ukraine as a free state. because the citizens of Ukraine want to have a free state. Not sure.
Thank you very much, Mr. Brok. Mr. Salafranca, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you very much. Good morning. After the statement which has been made by Ruslana and Elmar Brok, I will be really very brief. As you know, in Ukraine there are people who are dying for defending a European perspective. And the European Union cannot remain really impassible before these facts. The European People's Party group has expressed its solidarity with these people by sending a delegation of the group. Mr. Brok, Mr. Saryusz-Wolski and myself, we were in December in Kiev. There was, and we promote, an ad hoc delegation of the European Parliament, and we have promoted many statements and many resolutions inside the House. But now, the time of the resolutions and the time of the statements is over. We must go further, we must go beyond, and this is why we are calling for an extraordinary meeting of the European Foreign Affairs Council, just to stop violence and to consider the introduction of sanctions. This is an exceptional situation, and we have to consider exceptional measures. And the first thing is that the violence must immediately stop. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Brok and then Mr. Saryusz-Wolski.
I just got an SMS that there will be tomorrow an urgency meeting of the foreign ministers. We have called for that this morning, had many phone calls, and I think we and others were quite successful to achieve that, and I think that is a good message that the European Union is coming up to this mind. And we call again that here the sanctions have to be discussed.
Thank you. Sorry for being late, but I've been on Maidan until 5 Kyiv time this morning to make sure that Maidan survives. It does. Ukrainians are tired with our words, so we should be brief. I think that we are coming to a moment when there will be an agreement to apply sanctions. They will be useful, although they are overdue. If applied sooner, they might have brought more effects. I think, and I am afraid, that Mr. Yanukovych has already calculated and consumed those sanctions. He knows they will come. I have proposed sanctions in September in my motion to the Commission and in my Vilnius report in November, and repeatedly the European Parliament said the same this February. But I don't think that we should too much concentrate on sanctions today. It perhaps brings some moral satisfaction, but we should look at the real causes and the future. And the real master pulling the strings is Moscow. Mr. Yanukovych is no longer, and since some time, interlocutor. So Moscow should be addressed. I propose in my motion to the Commission in September, after embargo, to address pressures and sanctions against Russia. Then it thought it was impossible. But I think that EU and US should reflect on that, and especially US, which so easily accuses Union of inactivity, while it is the Union who has the biggest burden of this relationship, both with Ukraine and with Russia. We also should draw lessons from the 2008 August Georgia invasion. I think we did not draw all the lessons necessary, and we remained too naive over time. Now the time has come for democracy to speak in Ukraine. 4 points. First, stop of violence I join all those calls and appeals, but I don't believe them. This night, Mr. Yanukovych told Klitschko and Yatsenyuk and Technibok that he will go until the end, emptying Maidan by force. Second is new old constitution, what was asked for by those demonstrators who went to Rada yesterday and then were crushed by Berkut and police. 3, elections, because this authority has lost completely any legitimacy, legal and political. And then new government. And then, as it was said, this new government, legitimate, making its own choice on European or non-European, whatever cause, but surely democratic cause and reformist cause, should get the most generous offer it is possible for Union, and not only Union, to put on the table to new Ukraine. I am not optimistic about the short term. I know from the experience of my country that independence and freedom sometimes has to be paid for with blood, as it was the case of Poland. But Ukrainians, as they show, they are ready to pay all necessary price, the lowest possible, I hope, for their freedom. And as Bernard-Henri Lévy has said at Maidan, the heart of Europe today beats in Kiev, not in Brussels, not elsewhere, in Kiev. That's all I wanted to say, just to conclude saying that this morning, 1 hour ago, the Polish Parliament, government opposition, spoke in favour of applying sanctions as proposed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Saryusz-Wolski. We are limited on time. In fact, we are already half an hour past the time. So I would just like to ask you to introduce yourself and give a very brief comment, if necessary, and a question. We have translations to German, English, and French. And there is a call for the floor already from up here. So we'll take a few comments and questions at the same time and then answer them together. Thank you.
Меня зовут Михаил Волынец. Я председатель Конфедерации свободных профсоюзов Украины. Все активисты независимых профсоюзов находятся на Майдане с первого дня, так как и Руслана. Будешь переводить? Я сам из Востока.
No? Is there a translation? No? Oh, sorry.
Все активисты независимых профсоюзов. Я еще раз повторю для переводчика. Я председатель Конфедерации свободных профсоюзов Украины, и все активисты независимых профсоюзов находятся на Майдане с первого дня вместе с участниками мирной акции протеста.
I am the member of the trade union and activist of Ukraine, and I am on my Euromaidan since the very first day.
Я сам из Донбасса, с Востока, и лучше, чем кто другой, понимаю, какую угрозу несет политика Януковича для Украины, для всего населения Украины и для всего прогрессивного мира.
I'm from Donbass myself, and I understand more than anyone else what is the policies and politics of Yanukovych, what a disaster can be for Ukraine.
То, что он делает в последние месяцы, это наглядная иллюстрация, когда всю страну он топит в крови.
Whatever he's doing in the last few months is an illustration that he's just sinking Ukrainian blood.
Наши выводы однозначны. Нужны санкции. Санкции нужны к Януковичу и его окружению.
There is only one solution to this. We need sanctions to his personal sanctions and to people who are surrounding.
Мы обращаемся к европейскому пространству, мы обращаемся к Соединенным Штатам Америки, другим демократическим странам мира, поддержать наше обращение, ввести санкции. В другом случае, я так само присоединяюсь к заявлению Русланы Лежичко и объявлю забастовку, если такие санкции не будут введены. И таких будут тысячи, десятки тысяч.
So I'm here to ask all the politicians in the EU, in the States, to introduce the sanctions. I will make it a little bit shorter, and I would like just to join Ruslan, and I'm sure there will be thousands of people who will follow me, that I will also start the starvation if this will not be done.
Thank you very much. Please, go ahead. Introduce yourself.
Yes, my name is Georgi Gotov. I'm a journalist from Euractiv. I have a question to Mr. Saryusz-Wolski. You mentioned sanctions against Russia. Can you elaborate?
Okay, should we take a few questions at the same time?
Sorry?
Let's take a few questions, because we are short on time. Please, anybody else has a question? Please.
Odile Harvey pour le magazine.
Yes, I'm from Point Info, the magazine in Paris.
You know, as long as there is a naval base, a Russian naval base in Sebastopol, we come up to a solution. That's my first question. And do you think, as one of the French commentators on French radio this morning suggested, to boycott the end of the Sochi game, do you think that's a good solution as well? And thirdly, do you think that there is some kind of an ambiguity now with the enlargement policy of the European Union, and especially now in the time of pre-elections, you know, if you ask the people on the street, perhaps they are not as sympathetic as you would think they are, and regarding that part of Europe. And thank you very much.
Thank you. Please go ahead.
Yes, my name is Marta. I am Ukrainian, and I have a question to Ruslana. Ruslana, you're ambassador of our nation here and now. Would you mind to ask journalists to mention the word genocide in their reports when describing war against Ukrainians? Thank you.
Thank you. Let's address these questions. Mr. Saryusz-Wolski, you were asked directly, so perhaps you should
Thank you. Well, the list of measures you will find in my written question to the Commission, not in classic definition measures. If Russia blocks trade of Ukraine and Moldova, the EU should do the same, defending its partners symmetrically. If Russia blocks energy deliveries to Moldova or Ukraine, in the energy field, EU should do the same. If Russia blocks movement of people to Moldova or Ukraine, the EU should draw the conclusions and do the same, and not proceed as if nothing has happened on visa liberalisation with Russia. And perhaps I would make one special case. There is such a man in Moscow, and his name is Glaziev, who openly called for crackdown of the peaceful manifestation in Kiev. I would apply to him personal sanctions, no travel and no bank account in Europe.
Okay, Mr. Brok, about the other questions perhaps.
Thank you very much. We talk about not membership questions here. We talk about the right of Ukraine that they can sign an association agreement and a free trade agreement. And the majority of the Ukrainian people, in our opinion, wants to do that. And here we have to provide the possibilities for that. That's the issue of the day, which we have to discuss. To the measures towards Russia, I think it would be already an important question if we use all our possibilities that Russia fulfills its responsibilities as a WTO member. If, for example, in the Commission is certain Gazprom cases, then it must be clear that there is not a political rebate for that, but the clear measures how to behave towards the European Union and on the European internal market must be kept by everyone, including Russia. I think already this would be a message which would be understood.
Thank you for this question. Я не дуже вважала, що я посол України в Європі, але якщо вам так подобається, хай буде.
I don't consider myself to be the ambassador of Ukraine in Europe.
Я буду з радістю себе називати послом України в Європі.
But I will gladly be one, and I will gladly name myself.
Я хочу додати, що Янукович є на сьогоднішній день сам найбільшим радикалом і екстремістом.
I would like to say that Yanukovych is himself the biggest radical and extremist.
Це є людина, яка узурпувала владу.
This is the person who usurpated the power.
Вчинила диктатуру.
Created the dictatorship.
Вчинив злочин проти людяності.
He actually performed the crime against humanity.
І його місце, на мій погляд, в тюрмі.
And his place is in jail.
Do you have a follow-up question on this, maybe?
Well, I didn't get an answer to my question, actually. So, a bit louder. Yeah. You know, I ask about the, as long as the naval base in Sevastopol will still be there, and so how it is going to affect the situation. And I also ask, you know, whether the idea of boycotting the end of the Sochi game was a good idea, you know, by European teams, and also about the new policy of the enlargement and you know, the way it is viewed by the European citizen in some countries. Thank you.
Well, concerning the question related to Sebastopol, I would say that, well, it belongs to the agreements which has been done between Ukraine and Russia. I would say concerning the boycott to the last part of these Olympic Games in Sochi, well, I don't exclude, but I would say that maybe it's too late, unfortunately. And you know that effectively we are preparing the European elections, and well, we are reconsidering what should be our policy about neighborhood. And well, we are preparing the next summit after Vilnius, which really wasn't the best success of the European Union. But I would like to underline now that the most important thing is to stop violence in Ukraine, to try to follow the roadmap. We have the resignation of the government. The law on amnesty has been adopted. It's very important to try to appoint a new government and, of course, to reestablish the former constitution of 2004. But the question is, after the events that there were yesterday, there is no credibility on the side of the government. And it's really important that the international community force to the government to conclude this roadmap in order to establish democracy and to establish freedom. And I would like to underline that the Rada voted following a very large majority in favor of this signature of the association agreement with the European Union. And the most important thing is that the voice of the people be listened and to find really a channel for anticipate elections.
Okay. Perhaps we take one quick round because we're running over time and Ruslana has to fly to Kiev amongst other people. So quickly, please. Let's go like this.
My name is Maria. I'm a journalist from Ukraine, and I would like to ask a question on Eastern Partnership policy. Do you consider a Ukrainian crisis as a sign that this policy should be re-established or rethink? Was it effective, basically? Thank you.
Anna Katarzyna Nietyksza, member of European Economic and Social Committee. I am with the delegation here. Well, the question is, what are you waiting for to start sanctions? How many people should be killed? Thank you.
Joanna Wajda, Polish Television. I have a question to Mr. Brok and Saryusz-Wolski. It seems that sanctions are getting more and more real. So I have a question. Which names should appear on the black list, on the black European list? Do you have any list, any propositions?
Knut Priester, Funke Media Group, German regional newspapers. Question to Mr. Brok and Saryusz-Wolski, please. There has been floated the idea in Germany that former German Chancellor Gerhard Schröder could play a useful role in his capacity as a personal friend of Mr. Putin. I wonder whether you consider this a useful proposition. Thank you.
Who wants to start?
I think, first of all, I believe this is now the time to reconsider the strategy of the European Union as a whole. I believe we have learned the lesson. Without a real joint Russia policy, there is no good neighborhood policy. And here I think we have to become better. The second point is that we have to talk about the neighborhood policy in a way that we should see it more on a multilateral level, what we have discussed so often. We have done a lot in order to financing certain programs, but I think there was sometimes not enough a common strategic approach to that. And this might be the consideration for you. But that is also the same question to the southern neighborhood policy, in a way. To the sanctions, I think it would be wrong that now everyone puts his names on the plate. I think it's now the possibility that today and tomorrow the institutions talk to each other. And that might be the right moment when the foreign ministers' meeting will happen tomorrow, that then is the place that the certain names should be mentioned, and we will make our proposals for that. The last sanction, the question how you put the question to me on Schröder was already giving the answer. I do not think that Mr. Schröder has an image in Ukraine that he is considered by the opposition as a mediator. But everyone is welcomed to have his influence on Mr. Putin, to take his part of responsibility for helping that a peaceful solution must be possible. And therefore, Mr. Schröder is really invited to do that privately and publicly, to have his influence on Mr. Putin.
Thank you. On sanctions, yes, you want to say?
Yes, I would like to add some names very important for sanction. It's about son of Yanukovych, Alexander Yanukovych. He has money in Deutsche Bank, I think so. And for Zakharchenko, Klyev. Klyev has money in Austria, Unicredit Bank. And for Yefremov and other oligarchs who support Yanukovych right now. Thank you.
On sanctions, let me just repeat what I said. Do not overestimate the effects of late sanctions. On Schröder, I think he is partly guilty of the situation. The Nord Stream, which he authored, is one of the reasons why Ukraine has become so dependent on Russia and so vulnerable. So he would be the last person to be asked to mediate. And overall, I think that the socialists in Europe did not play a positive role in that. Social Democrats in this House were the most reluctant to be forthcoming towards active attitude towards Ukraine Democrats. And this morning, Polish socialists, member of SD, distanced themselves, former Prime Minister Miller, from sanctions. Not to forget that Social Democrats have signed cooperation agreement with Party of Regions, and perhaps today they should rethink this liaison, dangereux, and perhaps use, if at all possible, their force and influence to tell Mr. Yanukovych to stop violence. On Eastern Partnership, I think the concept is good. implementation is bad. And mostly implementation is bad because we have had somebody who has been trying to destroy it from the outside, and it is Russia. That's why I think that we need a flanking Russia policy, a true one, as Mr. Brok has called for, which would defend and protect this policy from negative Russian influence. And that necessitates to talk on the top levels of EU and US, and to ask the United States not just use words, but its strategic weight, which the Union does not have, quite frankly, because they are strong in mouth and weak in deeds, because they have their strategic interests, global ones. And they don't want, and they do not intend to put them at risk. That's why I deplore the position of Mrs. Nuland on that. So we need a flanking Russia policy, exactly on the lines as my colleague Brok said, a true Russia policy. It merits a special debate. I think the Council, I mean the meeting, the summit was a profound deception, as expected, but perhaps it has revealed finally to some who did not see that so clearly, that there is a new era needed in EU-Russia relations. And without developing further, I would give the following title: From Russia First Policy to Russia Next Policy. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for your attention. We continue our work for Ukraine.